Nuri again. I hope that you're doing okay. I'm the writer of the book, Leading the Unknown. In today's video, I'm going to start looking at how assumptions, especially in remote work, could lead to danger. And this is also covered in a chapter in my book, Leading the Unknown. If you didn't get a copy yet, please get one. And also please talk about my book to your friends, buddies, colleagues in the company, in the family, and in your environment. I really appreciate that. When someone is working remotely, it is very different than if you're working locally with your manager, with your peers, right? Many times you just, if you're working in the local office, your manager comes in, you take a coffee, you go to lunch with that person, and then, if there are any kind of assumptions in your head, you can just clear those assumptions super easy. It can be in a meeting, it can be on a corridor, it can be on the elevator. Hey, the project deadline, was it this? Oh, great. Hey, can you just check because the scope of your work is a little bit different than what you're delivering? Oh, the quality of the work that I see so far is not really good. I checked it. Drinking a coffee, having an apple, or drinking some water in the elevator or whatsoever. Those interactions, when you are locally, it's really very easy. Even with your coworkers. When you talk to your coworkers every day, you're meeting them, you're having lunch with them, you're having coffee with them or whatsoever, you can understand where the things are going and if you are doing the right thing, yes or no. It's very easy. Nevertheless, imagine a complete different scenario, remote work. And especially if you are a gig and freelancer, wow, that can be very challenging because of many reasons. First, you need to have a leader, not a manager, to lead you and to make sure that you are on track, you are doing the right thing. For example, if you are a remote worker that is working in a complete different time zone than your leader, then you might need to find ways to be able to see if you are good on the deadline, if you understood well the scope of work, and most importantly, feedback about your work. Sometimes offline feedback is good, but having this face-to-face conversation, especially on video, although it's like 2 dimensions, it's really very valuable. If you are within the company, a full-time employee worker, and you are working remotely, like I do since years, it is super important to have short, precise, and to-the-point connections with your leader. I'm trying to avoid the word manager because for me, today and in the setup of tomorrow's future of work, managers will not be able to survive. You will need leaders. Companies will really need leaders. And what type of leaders? Check my book because this book defines what type of leaders are needed for the future of work. Now, communication is very important in every aspect, local, remote, gig worker, freelancers, it doesn't matter. Nevertheless, in a remote setup or in gig setup, you need to make sure that you over communicate if you are leading, or if you need to over communicate if you are the person who's being led or who's being hired or who's working remotely from home. So all those frequent check-ins is very important. And also understanding the cultural differences. In my previous video, please check it out. We talked about not only the cultural differences, we talked about also generational differences, which a leader needs to consider. And also the person who is a worker needs to consider that the leader also has generational differences, but also cultural differences. So we need to be able to talk to each other to meet somewhere in between so that our communication, our interactions are really superb. Many leaders would sometimes forget about the people on their personal or professional development and career development. And they might say, hey, look, this is a freelancer and I don't care about that person's professional development. I think that is a mistake. Even a freelancer, as a person, as a human, needs to be given feedback and also guidance and coaching on professional development and also personal development, which is really very crucial, especially looking at the future of work. Additional, last but not least, accessibility to resources. Does that person who is in remote have access to all of the resources that the people who are in local, do they have this? Do they have those informations? Are they included? These are very, very important aspects when we talk about the, especially looking at the assumptions that people make when they are leading a remote team or leading or being led in a remote setup. Assumptions are very tricky. So let me give you an example. And we have some examples in my book as well. There was a point in time in my previous roles in my company where I used to have one-to-one conversations every week, set up like half an hour with my leader. All of a sudden, my leader started to cancel those one-to-ones. I was trying to approach her and try to ask through Microsoft Teams, through emails. I'm trying to call her to say, look, what's going on? Why did you cancel my meetings? At that time, there was a lot of pressure in the system. And I made the assumption that for a kind of a conversation that I had before she started to cancel my meetings, a conversation that I had with her was really tense. It was a business discussion, but we would disagree in some of the thoughts. And I thought that was because this discussion happened, this kind of a friction happened. She started to cancel my calls and one-to-ones. That was horrible. I was going to sleep, trying to understand if I was going to be fired, if I did something wrong, if I have been disrespectful or whatsoever. So I just continued to turn it around. I was a remote worker as well, and she was as well. We were in the same time zone. And again, despite the fact that I was trying to reach out to her on Microsoft Teams, she wouldn't respond. That made things a lot worse. Finally, I managed to get to her, and I started to see how I could position how I was feeling in that situation, and say, hey, look, why did you all of a sudden cancel all of my one-to-ones? Is it that I'm not important anymore? Did I say something wrong? I don't know. What's the reason? So because I said, hey, I was having this assumption that I was not a useful worker for you anymore. I was not valuable worker for you anymore. And really, this really killed my psychology. And I just quit doing sports because it was constantly on my mind. She looked at me and she said, wow, I didn't know. And she said that she had a lot of pressure in other departments in her organization. And my department was really working very nicely. So she said that, hey, let's save this time so that I focus on other departments that are not working. So she was trying to get time back and also focus back so that she could just deal with other departments. And then we had a mutual conversation where I said, hey, look, if you cancel those kind of meetings because of these reasons, just send me a message. Then I'll be okay. So my assumptions and her assumptions, both of them are not the right ones. She was assuming that I would understand because I would see other departments were struggling. And since my department or my organization was not struggling, I would understand the cancellation of the calls. It's just simple as when you cancel the call, hey, Nuri, since other departments are a little bit on fire, let's cancel the calls for a few weeks. If you have something, just send me an email or we're going to discuss about things offline. She could have avoided my burnout. I was really burnt out because I was trying to understand. I was struggling to really do more and to try to produce more because I thought that there was something wrong with me or with my department. And she was having the assumption that I was happy, which was not the situation. Thanks God that during that time, the employee poll survey was not there because I would have just given open feedback about, hey, I didn't feel good about this situation. So this short video, I hope that gives you an understanding on how as a leader or how as a worker, you need to really understand if you are remote, if you are a gig and freelancing worker, you need to really make sure that you are reaching out proactively to talk about things and not make any kind of assumptions. Assumptions are not really the reality. You need to sort it out. Assumptions are things that you create in your brain with the connection of your neurons in your brain. It's a kind of parallel reality that many times it doesn't really match the real reality. And hence, communication, and over-communication. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, please like, and also please share. You'll help a lot. Bye-bye.